This is HOA Spot. One icy step and she tried to ruin my week. Karen blocked my front steps with a folding sign stand and yelled that my walkway failed inspection and the HOA would post an official hazard notice and fine me if I did not clear it again right now. "You do not shovel to my standard, you pay to my standard," she said, jabbing her finger at the cleared concrete like I had committed a crime. I stood there in my navy puffer jacket with the hood up and my reflective vest over my winter layers, staring at her and the phone on the gimbal she had pointed at my face, and I knew this was going to be a long morning. My name is Carson Reed. I live in Draper, Utah, in a neighborhood called Timberline Estates Association, and I drive for a rideshare service to pay the bills. I am trying to sell this house and get out before the HOA ruins my life completely, but Laura Mitchell, the vice president of the board, has other plans. She wore a gray puffer coat with the hood up and a black knit beanie underneath, her blonde bob framing her face in a way that made every scowl feel rehearsed. Behind her, the calm after the storm left fresh tracks in the snow and a glittering white blanket over everything, but none of that mattered, because Laura was already pulling out her clipboard. "I shoveled this walkway twice already," I said, keeping my voice level, "once last night after the storm and again this morning. What standard are you even talking about?" Laura did not even look up from her clipboard. "The HOA winter policy requires walkways to be cleared to bare pavement within 6 hours of snowfall ending, and you are not in compliance. I see patches of ice and uneven clearing. You signed the covenants. Now you live the covenants." I glanced down at the walkway. It was clear. There were no patches of ice. I had salted it myself an hour ago. "This is insane," I said. Laura smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Insane is leaving your neighbors at risk because you cannot follow basic safety rules. The fine is $250, payable immediately, or it doubles in 48 hours. I did not have $250 to throw away on a fake violation, and Laura knew it. She also knew I was waiting on critical documents in my mailbox, paperwork for the house sale that had to be signed and returned by end of business today or the buyer would walk. "My mailbox access matters because I am waiting on critical documents," I said, "and you are blocking my steps. Move the sign." Laura tilted her head. "I am conducting an official inspection. You can access your mailbox when I am done." I felt my jaw tighten. This was not an inspection. This was harassment. But I did not say that yet, because I was still trying to figure out what she really wanted. Laura turned and walked toward my driveway, her boots crunching in the snow, the gimbal phone swiveling to follow me as I trailed behind her. When we reached my car, I saw it, a bright orange sticker on my windshield, the kind you see on abandoned vehicles, tow warning. Unauthorized parking during snow emergency operations. Vehicle subject to immediate removal. I froze. "What is this?" I said. Laura crossed her arms. "Exactly what it says. You parked in violation of the emergency snow route, and the HOA has authorized towing. You have until noon to move it or pay the $300 fine, or the tow company will be here by 1. My car was parked in my own driveway. It had not moved since before the storm. There was no snow emergency declared by the city, I was sure of it, but Laura was acting like she had all the authority in the world. I pulled out my phone and opened the city website. No alerts, no emergency declarations. Just a standard winter storm advisory that had expired yesterday. I showed her the screen. "There is no snow emergency," I said. Laura did not even glance at it. "The HOA declared one. We have the authority under the covenants to implement emergency measures. I do not need proof. I have paperwork and vibes." I stared at her. "That is not how emergency declarations work," I said. Laura shrugged. "Take it up with the board. The next meeting is in 3 weeks." 3 weeks. I did not have 3 weeks. I did not even have 3 days. The buyer's agent had been clear. Any unresolved HOA issues, any liens, any pending violations, and the deal was off. And Laura knew that. She had been on the board when I submitted my sale disclosure request 2 months ago. She knew I was trying to leave. She knew this was my way out, and she was going to squeeze every dollar she could before I got there. "I need a copy of the winter policy," I said. Laura shook her head. "It is an internal enforcement document, not available to homeowners." I felt my chest tighten. "You cannot enforce a rule you will not show me." Laura leaned in. "You signed the covenants, now you live the covenants. If you do not like it, sue us, but your car will be gone by 1. I watched her walk away, the gimbal phone still recording, her reflective vest glowing in the winter sun. The folding sign stand stayed on my front steps. The tow warning stayed on my windshield, and I had 4 hours to figure out what to do. I went inside and called the tow company listed on the sticker. The dispatcher sounded bored. "Yeah, we got an authorization request this morning. Timberline Estates, right?" I said yes. "What does the authorization say?" The dispatcher paused. "Just says vehicle in violation of emergency parking rules. We will be there at 1 unless you move it or pay the fine." I asked who signed the authorization. Another pause. Laura Mitchell, Vice President. I thanked her and hung up. Here is the thing about HOA towing. In Utah, an HOA can authorize a tow from common property if the vehicle is parked illegally, but they cannot tow from a private driveway without going through the courts first. Laura had just lied to the tow company, or she did not know the law, or she was counting on me not knowing the law. Either way, I was not moving my car and I was not paying the fine. But I needed proof. I needed someone who could tell me what documentation actually mattered. I pulled up my contacts and found the number I had saved 3 weeks ago when I first smelled trouble. A local news tip line staffer named Monica had told me to call if the HOA tried anything shady. She answered on the second ring. "Monica, this is Carson Reed in Draper. The HOA just put a tow warning on my car during a fake snow emergency. I need to know what I should be documenting." Monica did not hesitate. "Get everything in writing. Email the board and ask for a copy of the emergency declaration and the winter policy. If they refuse, forward that refusal to me. Also, check with the city to confirm there was no emergency. Get it in writing. If they towed your car from your own driveway, that is conversion, and you can file a police report." I scribbled notes on the back of an envelope. "What about the fine?" Monica laughed. "Do not pay it. If they try to lien your property, they have to give you notice and a hearing. Make them follow procedure. Most HOAs fold when you push back." I thanked her and hung up, then opened my email. I typed out a formal request to the Timberline Estates Association Board asking for a copy of the emergency snow declaration, the winter policy, and the authorization form Laura used to call the tow company. I kept it polite but firm. I copied Monica on it. I hit send at 9:30. By 10, I had a response. Not from Laura, from the HOA management company. "Your request has been forwarded to the board for review. Please allow 5 to 7 business days for a response." I forwarded that to Monica with a single line, "They are stalling." She replied in seconds. "Perfect. That is evidence of obstruction." I checked my mailbox. Empty. The documents were not there yet. I called the buyer's agent. She sounded stressed. Carson, I need those signatures by 5 today or we are going to have a problem. The buyer is already nervous about the HOA situation. If there is any hint of a lien or a lawsuit, they will walk. I told her I was working on it. She did not sound convinced. I went back outside. The folding sign stand was still on my steps. I picked it up and moved it to the side of the walkway, then took a photo, evidence. I checked the tow warning sticker again. It listed a number for disputes. I called it. Voicemail. I left a message explaining that my car was parked legally in my own driveway and that I had confirmed with the city there was no snow emergency. I asked for a callback before 1. At 11, my gate access stopped working. I tried my key fob 3 times. Nothing. The gate to the neighborhood mail center would not open. I walked up to the call box and pressed the button for the management office. A woman answered. Timberline Management. I told her my gate fob was not working. She put me on hold. 2 minutes later, she came back. Your account shows a compliance hold. You will need to resolve any outstanding violations before access is restored. I felt my blood pressure spike. I do not have any outstanding violations, I said. She sighed. It says here you have an unpaid fine for walkway clearing and a pending tow authorization. You will need to speak with the board. I asked for Laura's number. She gave me the same management company line I already had. I hung up. This was escalating faster than I expected. Laura had not just threatened to tow my car. She had locked me out of the mail center on the same day I needed access to close a house sale. That was not a coincidence. That was targeted. I called Monica again. They just locked me out of the gate, I said. Same day I need to get critical mail. Monica swore under her breath. That is retaliation. Document the time and what they said. If they are using access control as punishment, that is a violation of your property rights. File a complaint with the management company in writing. Demand immediate restoration. I did exactly that. I sent the email at 11:15. No response. At 11:30, I heard a truck engine. I looked out the front window and saw a white pickup with a trailer hitch pulling up to my driveway. Not a tow truck. A man in a reflective vest got out, the same kind I was wearing, but his was orange. He walked up to my door and knocked. I opened it. He looked uncomfortable. Are you Carson Reed? I said yes. He handed me a clipboard. I need you to sign this. It is a damage assessment for common property. What damage? I said. He pointed toward the curb, your snow pile. It is blocking the storm drain, and it caused flooding on the sidewalk. The HOA is charging you for the cleanup and repair. I stared at him. I did not pile snow on the curb. I piled it on my lawn. He shrugged. The board says otherwise. You have to pay $800 or they will charge you daily until it is fixed. I did not sign it. I took a photo of the form instead. The man looked annoyed. If you do not sign, it just goes to collections. I told him I would be disputing the charge and he could leave. He did. I walked out to the curb and looked at the storm drain. It was not blocked. There was no flooding. The snow pile was exactly where I put it, on the grass strip between my driveway and the fence. I took photos from every angle, including a shot showing the clear drain. Then I called Monica again. Now they are claiming I damaged common property with a snow pile that does not exist, I said. Monica laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. They are throwing everything at you to see what sticks. Do not pay anything, keep documenting, and get that mail. You need those signatures today. At 12:15, I decided to walk to the mail center. If the gate would not open, I would climb the fence. It was only 4 feet tall, decorative iron, easy to get over. I made it halfway there when I saw Laura's gray puffer coat coming toward me. She had someone with her, a man in a dark jacket and a clipboard. HOA attorney, I guessed. "Carson," Laura said, her voice loud enough to carry, "you are trespassing." I stopped. "I live here. I pay dues. I am not trespassing." The man with the clipboard spoke up. "You are on a compliance hold. That means restricted access to common areas until your violations are resolved." I felt my hands curl into fists. "You cannot lock me out of my own neighborhood," I said. The man shrugged. "Read your covenants. The board has enforcement discretion." I did not argue. I turned around and walked back to my house. I called a lawyer, a real one. The receptionist said the attorney was in court, but could call me back by 2. I said that was too late. She offered to take a message. I left one. While I waited, I checked my email again. Still nothing from the management company. I checked the city website and found a public records request form. I filled it out, asking for any emergency declarations or snow route activations in Draper during the past 72 hours. I paid the $5 processing fee and submitted it. The confirmation said I would have a response in 3 to 5 business days. Not fast enough. I called the city directly. The clerk who answered sounded helpful. I explained the situation. She put me on hold, then came back 2 minutes later. "Sir, we do not have any record of a snow emergency in your area. The last one we issued was in January of last year." "Can I get that in writing?" I asked. She hesitated. "I can email you a confirmation." "What is your email?" I gave it to her. She said it would arrive within the hour. I thanked her and hung up. It was 12:45. I had 15 minutes before the tow truck was supposed to show up. I went outside and stood next to my car. If they wanted to tow it, they were going to have to go through me first. At 1, no tow truck. At 1:15, still nothing. At 1:30, I called the tow company again. The dispatcher sounded confused. "Yeah, we got a call from the HOA about an hour ago canceling the tow." I asked why. She did not know. I asked if Laura Mitchell called it in. She checked. No, it was someone from the management company. They said the vehicle was moved. I told her the vehicle had not moved. She did not care. If they canceled, we do not tow. I hung up. Laura had backed off. That meant someone higher up had told her to stand down. Or she realized the tow was illegal and did not want to risk it. Either way, I had won the first round. But the fight was not over. At 2, the city clerk emailed me. The attachment was a 1-page letter on city letterhead confirming that no snow emergency had been declared in Draper since January of the previous year, and that Timberline Estates Association was not authorized to declare municipal emergencies. I forwarded it to Monica, to the management company, and to Laura directly with a single line in the body. "This means the tow authorization was fraudulent." I copied the board. I did not get a response. At 2:30, my gate fob started working again. I tested it 3 times. The mail center gate opened every time. I drove over and checked my mailbox. The documents were there. I signed them in my car, scanned them with my phone, and emailed them to the buyer's agent at 2:50. She confirmed receipt at 2:51. The deal was still alive. But I was not done. Laura had tried to extort me, lock me out, and tow my car based on a lie, and she had done it while wearing a reflective vest and filming everything, convinced she was in the right. I did not play my hand yet, and she thought that meant I had none. But I had been recording too. Every conversation, every email, every refusal to provide documentation. And I had one more thing. 3 weeks ago, when Laura first started harassing me about snow removal, I had installed a doorbell camera with audio. I pulled up the footage from this morning and clipped the section where she told me the HOA had declared a snow emergency and that she did not need proof, just paperwork and vibes. I saved it. I did not send it yet. I was waiting for the right moment. That moment came 2 days later. I got a certified letter from the management company. Notice of violation. Failure to maintain walkway. Failure to comply with emergency parking rules. Unauthorized alteration of common property. Snow pile placement. Total fines, $1,250 plus $50 per day late fees starting immediately. A hearing was scheduled for the following week. Attendance mandatory. I read it twice, then called Monica. They are going nuclear, I said. Monica did not sound surprised. Good. That means they are scared. Bring everything to the hearing. The city letter, the emails, the recordings. Make them defend their position in public. And I will be there. I cover HOA hearings for the news blog. They hate when I show up. The hearing was on a Thursday night at 6 in the clubhouse meeting room. I arrived at 5:45. The parking lot was half full. I recognized a few neighbors. One of them, a man named Derek who lived 2 streets over, waved me over. He had his arms crossed and a smirk on his face. I heard what Laura did to you, he said. She tried the same thing with me last month. Fake violation, fake fine, fake authority. I fought it and they dropped it. But she is pissed. Be ready. I asked what he meant. He nodded toward the clubhouse entrance. She is in there setting up right now. She has a whole presentation. I thanked him and went inside. The meeting room was set up like a courtroom. A long table at the front for the board, rows of chairs for homeowners, a podium with a microphone for anyone who wanted to speak. Laura was at the front table, organizing papers. She wore the same gray puffer coat and the reflective vest, even though we were indoors. Her phone was on the gimbal, pointed at the empty chairs. When she saw me, she smiled. Carson, glad you could make it. You signed the covenants, now you live the covenants. I did not respond. I sat in the front row and set my folder on my lap. Monica arrived at 5:55 and sat beside me. She had a notebook and a recorder. Laura glared at her but did not say anything. The board president called the meeting to order at 6. There were 3 board members, the president, a man in his 60s named Ron, Laura, and a woman named Ellen who always looked uncomfortable. Ron went through the standard business, approvals of minutes, treasurer report, nothing interesting. Then he got to my case. Next item, violation enforcement for Carson Reed, Unit 214. Laura stood and walked to the podium. She had a whole slideshow ready. The first slide was a photo of my walkway with the word non-compliant in red letters across the bottom. She clicked to the next slide. A photo of my car in my driveway with the tow warning sticker. Another click. A photo of the snow pile on my lawn with the words common property damage highlighted. Laura spoke without looking at me. Mr. Reed has repeatedly violated the winter safety policy, including failure to clear his walkway to bare pavement, illegal parking during a declared snow emergency, and damage to HOA storm drains through improper snow disposal. The total fines assessed are $1,250 with daily penalties accruing until compliance. We are here to determine next steps, including possible legal action and foreclosure if payment is not received. I felt the room shift. A few people murmured. Ron looked uncomfortable. Ellen looked like she wanted to leave. Laura looked triumphant. Ron cleared his throat. Mr. Reed, you have the floor if you would like to respond. I stood and walked to the podium. I did not bring a slideshow. I brought facts. I opened my folder and pulled out the city letter. I held it up so everyone could see the letterhead. This is a letter from the city of Draper confirming that no snow emergency was declared during the time period in question. That means the tow warning and the associated fine were based on false information. I handed a copy to Ron. He read it. His face went pale. I pulled out the second document. This is the email chain where I requested a copy of the winter policy and the emergency declaration. The management company refused to provide either. That means I was being fined for violating a rule I was not allowed to see. I handed that to Ron, too. Laura interrupted. The winter policy is an internal enforcement tool. We are not required to share it. I turned to her. Actually, under Utah HOA law, any rule used to assess a fine must be provided to homeowners upon request. Refusing to provide it makes the fine unenforceable. Laura's face went red. That is your interpretation. I shook my head. That is the law. You can look it up. Ron looked at Laura. Did you provide him with the policy? Laura hesitated. It is not finalized yet. I jumped in. So you fined me for violating a policy that does not exist. Laura snapped. The policy exists. It is just not published. Ron held up a hand. Laura, if it is not published, we cannot enforce it. We have been over this. I pulled out the third document. This is the damage assessment I was given for the snow pile. I took photos of the storm drain the same day. It was not blocked. There was no flooding. The snow pile is on my property, not common property. I handed the photos to Ron. He looked at them, then at Laura. Laura, is this accurate? Laura crossed her arms. The contractor said there was damage. Ron frowned. Where is the contractor's report? Laura did not answer. I took that as my cue. I pulled out my phone and opened the doorbell camera app. I had the clip ready. I hit play and held the phone up so the room could hear. Laura's voice came through clearly. The HOA declared one. We have the authority under the covenants to implement emergency measures. I do not need proof. I have paperwork and vibes. The room went silent. Someone in the back laughed. Laura's face went from red to purple. That is out of context, she said. I stopped the clip. Out of context? You said you do not need proof. You said you declared an emergency when the city confirms you do not have that authority. Ron looked at Laura. Laura, did you tell Mr. Reed the HOA declared a snow emergency? Laura stammered. It was a miscommunication. Ron stood up. Laura, we need to talk. Now. He gestured to the side door. Laura grabbed her phone and followed him. Ellen stayed at the table, looking miserable. The room buzzed with whispers. Monica leaned over. You just ended her, she said quietly. I did not feel victorious yet. I felt tired. Ron and Laura were gone for 10 minutes. When they came back, Laura did not sit down. Ron returned to his seat and addressed the room. After reviewing the evidence, the board has decided to suspend all fines against Mr. Reed, pending a full review of the winter enforcement policy. We will also be conducting an audit of recent violations to ensure compliance with state law. Mr. Reed, we apologize for the confusion and any inconvenience. Laura made a noise like she had been punched. Ron ignored her. Laura, please sit down. She did not. She grabbed her things and walked out. The door slammed behind her. Ellen looked relieved. Ron adjourned the meeting. I stayed for a few minutes to talk to neighbors. Derek clapped me on the back. That was beautiful, man. You made her look like an idiot. Monica was scribbling notes. I am writing this up tonight, she said. This is exactly the kind of abuse people need to see. Do you mind if I use your name? I said I did not mind. She thanked me and left. I drove home feeling like I had won, but I knew Laura was not done. People like her do not just walk away. They double down. I was right. 2 days later, I got another letter. This time it was not from the management company. It was from Laura directly on HOA letterhead. Notice of lien filing. Unpaid fines, legal fees, and administrative costs. Total $3,000. Payment due in 10 days or the lien would be recorded. I called Monica immediately. She swore. She is trying to sabotage your sale. If there is a lien on the property, the title company will not close. You need to stop this now. I asked how. She told me to file an injunction. I called the lawyer I had left a message with 2 weeks ago. He finally called me back. I explained the situation. He listened, then said, "This is harassment and probably fraud. I can file an emergency motion to block the lien, but it will cost you about $1,500 up front." I did not have $1,500. I told him I would call him back. I hung up and stared at the letter. Laura was betting I could not afford to fight. She was almost right. Then I remembered something. 3 weeks ago, when I first started documenting everything, I had filed a complaint with the state HOA ombudsman. I had not heard back. I pulled up the email confirmation and found the case number, then called the state office. The woman who answered said my case was under review. I explained that the HOA was now trying to file a fraudulent lien to stop a property sale. She put me on hold. 5 minutes later, a man came on the line. "Mr. Reed, this is Investigator Davis. We have been looking into your complaint. The HOA has a pattern of improper enforcement. We are opening a formal investigation. In the meantime, I can issue a cease and desist order blocking any lien filings until the investigation is complete." "How fast can you do that?" I asked. He said by end of day. I thanked him. The cease and desist order arrived in my email at 4 that afternoon. I forwarded it to the management company, the board, and Laura. I also forwarded it to the title company handling my sale. The buyer's agent called me an hour later. "Carson, what is going on?" I explained everything. She was quiet for a moment. "Okay. The title company says as long as the cease and desist holds, we can proceed. But if the HOA tries anything else, the buyer is walking." "Understood." I said I would handle it. She did not sound convinced. The closing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. I had 14 days to make sure Laura did not blow it up. I spent those 2 weeks waiting for the next shoe to drop. It did not. Laura went silent. No letters, no fines, no fake violations. I did not trust it. 1 week before closing, I got a call from Ron. "Carson, I want to apologize again for everything that happened. The board has voted to freeze all enforcement actions pending a complete rewrite of the winter policy. We are also removing Laura from her vice president position. She will remain on the board, but she will not have enforcement authority." I asked why. Ron sighed. "Because we found discrepancies in the HOA accounts. Small amounts, but consistent. We are bringing in a forensic accountant. Laura has been asked to cooperate." I felt a chill. "You think she was stealing?" Ron did not answer directly. "Let us just say the ledger does not match the bank statements, and Laura was the only one with solo access to the vendor payment system. I will let you know what we find." The forensic accountant finished his report 3 days before my closing. Monica called me with the news. "You are not going to believe this. Laura was using fake winter violations to cover missing HOA money. She would issue a violation, collect the fine in cash or check, then pocket it and report it as unpaid. The ledger shows about 40,000 missing over 2 years. The board is filing a police report. I sat down. 40,000? Monica confirmed. And your case is Exhibit A. The tow authorization, the fake emergency, the damage assessment, all of it was part of the same pattern. She was shaking people down and keeping the money. The board is voting tonight to remove her completely and refer her for criminal charges. I did not go to that meeting. I did not need to. Monica sent me a summary the next morning. The vote was unanimous. Laura was removed from the board, banned from all HOA meetings, and reported to the police for fraud and embezzlement. During the meeting, one of the homeowners stood up and read the list of fake violations Laura had issued over the past year. It was 32 people. When he finished, the room laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. Laura had tried to fine everyone. And now everyone knew. Monica wrote that Laura left the meeting in tears. I did not feel sorry for her. The board also voted to reverse all fines issued under her authority and to issue refunds where payments had been made. My record was cleared. 2 days before closing, I got one last surprise, a knock on my door at 7 in the morning. I opened it and saw a tow truck in my driveway, the hook chain inches from my bumper. My heart dropped. Then I saw the driver. He was the same guy from the canceled tow weeks ago. He looked apologetic. "Mr. Reed?" I said yes. He handed me a card. "I am not here to tow you. I am here to apologize. My company was told by the HOA that we had proper authorization. We did not. We should have verified. If you want to file a complaint, I understand." I took the card. It was from the tow company owner. A handwritten note on the back, "We do not work with Timberline Estates anymore. They lied to us too." I thanked the driver. He left. The closing happened on schedule. I signed the papers in a conference room downtown. The buyer was there, nervous but committed. The title company confirmed no liens, no pending violations, no clouds on the title. The money hit my account 2 hours later. I was free. I drove back to Timberline Estates one last time to clean out the last of my things. Derek saw me and waved. "Heard you got out," he said. "Good for you." "How is Laura?" I asked. Derek grinned. "She is under investigation. The DA is reviewing the forensic accountant's report. Word is she is looking at felony theft charges. And the HOA just hired a real management company, one that actually follows the law. Things are getting better. I was glad to hear it. But I was also glad I was leaving. I loaded the last box into my car and took one final look at the neighborhood. The snow was melting. The streets were clear. The reflective vest Laura used to wear while pretending to direct snow removal was gone. Everything looked normal. But I knew what had been hiding under the surface. I knew how close I had come to losing everything because one person thought she could lie her way into control. I did not play my hand yet, and she thought that meant I had none. But I had been patient. I had gathered evidence. I had built a case. And when the moment came, I presented as a timeline so the facts are undeniable even to people who hate drama. Laura never saw it coming, and by the time she realized what I had, it was too late. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more HOA nightmares where the bad guys get exactly what they deserve. The fallout continued for weeks after I left. Monica kept me updated. The police investigation confirmed that Laura had embezzled nearly $42,000 over 2 years using a combination of fake fines, unreported cash payments, and vendor kickbacks. She had been paying herself for snow removal services that were never performed, filing false damage claims, and pocketing the settlements. The board had trusted her because she was loud and confident and always had paperwork. But the paperwork was fake. The city confirmed that Karen calls it a snow emergency, and the city notice disproves it. That single line from the city clerk destroyed her entire defense. She could not claim good faith. She could not claim interpretation. She had lied in writing with intent. The criminal charges were filed in March. Laura was arrested at her home and released on bail. The local news picked it up. Monica's blog post went viral. The headline was HOA Vice President accused of stealing $42,000 in fake snow fines. The comments section was brutal. People shared their own Laura stories. The pattern was clear. She had been doing this for years, and the board had either ignored it or been too intimidated to push back. But once the forensic audit came out, there was no hiding. The ledger showed every fake fine, every missing payment, every discrepancy. And my case was the thread that unraveled it all. The doorbell camera clip, the city letter, the timeline I built, all of it became evidence in the criminal case. The preliminary hearing was in April. I did not attend, but Monica did. She told me the prosecutor played the doorbell camera clip in open court. I do not need proof. I have paperwork and vibes. The judge asked Laura's attorney if he wanted to explain that statement. The attorney asked for a recess. Laura pled guilty 2 weeks later to felony theft and fraud. The plea deal included full restitution, 3 years probation, and a permanent ban from serving on any HOA board in the state. She also had to forfeit her real estate license. She was done. And the HOA had to deal with the aftermath. The board hired an outside firm to audit every enforcement action from the past 3 years. They found dozens of improper fines, missing documentation, and policy violations. The firm recommended reversing every fine issued without proper notice and refunding any payments. The cost to the HOA was over $60,000. The insurance company covered most of it, but the remaining homeowners had to approve a special assessment to cover the rest. The vote was contentious. Some people were angry at Laura. Some were angry at the board for not catching it sooner. But in the end, the motion passed. The refunds went out in May. I got a check for $1,200 covering all the fines Laura had tried to collect from me. I deposited it and moved on. The HOA also made changes. They rewrote the winter policy with input from homeowners and published it online. They hired a professional management company with actual oversight. They implemented a 2-signature rule for all vendor payments. And they added a homeowner advocate position to the board, someone whose job was to review enforcement actions before fines were issued. Derek was elected to that role. He called me to tell me, "I think you started something," he said. "People are paying attention now. They are asking questions." The board actually has to follow the rules. I told him that was how it should have been from the start. He agreed. But the best part, the part that made everything worth it, came in June, the annual HOA meeting. I did not go, but Monica did. She sent me a video. The board was presenting the new policies, the financial audit results, and the plan moving forward. When they got to the enforcement section, Ron stood up and said, "We owe a debt of gratitude to the homeowners who pushed back against improper enforcement. Without their courage, we would not have uncovered the fraud that was damaging this community." One of those homeowners was Carson Reed, who is no longer with us, but whose case became the foundation for the reforms we are implementing today. The room applauded. Then someone in the back stood up and said, "Where is Laura?" Ron cleared his throat. "Laura Mitchell is no longer a member of this board or this community. She has been permanently banned under the terms of her plea agreement." There was a pause. Then someone else said, "Good riddance." The room laughed. Not a polite laugh, a real cathartic laugh. The kind that comes when people realize they do not have to be afraid anymore. Monica told me it was the single most satisfying moment she had ever witnessed at an HOA meeting. Karen is outvoted so hard the room laughs. That was the line I kept coming back to. Because it was not just about the vote. It was about the shift. Laura had ruled through fear and paperwork and fake authority, and when the truth came out, nobody stood with her. She was alone. And everyone knew it. The tow vendor story also had a coda. The company owner, the one who sent me the apology card, reached out in July. He wanted to know if I would be willing to talk to his staff about how to spot fraudulent HOA authorizations. Apparently, after the Timberline case went public, he discovered that other HOAs in the area had been pulling similar stunts. He had his dispatchers start verifying every tow request against state law and HOA governing documents. If the paperwork did not match, they refused the job. He told me it cost him some contracts, but it also protected his company from liability. A tow vendor refusing to act without proper authorization became his new standard. I thought that was smart. I agreed to talk to his team. We did a Zoom call in August. I walked them through the warning signs, vague authorizations, missing signatures, refusal to provide documentation, claims of emergency authority without city confirmation. They took notes. I hope it helped. As for me, I moved to a neighborhood with no HOA, a small house on a corner lot with a gravel driveway and no covenants. I can park wherever I want. I can pile snow wherever I want. I can paint my front door purple if I feel like it. I have not tested that last one yet, but the freedom is nice. I still drive for the rideshare service, and I am working on getting back into IT compliance, which was my field before I burned out and moved to Utah. The sale of the Timberland house gave me enough cushion to breathe. I am not rich, but I am stable. And I am not looking over my shoulder waiting for the next fake violation. That alone is worth everything. Monica still covers HOA stories. She calls me sometimes when she finds a case that reminds her of mine. She says the Timberline case changed how some local reporters cover HOA abuse. It is not just quirky neighborhood drama anymore. It is fraud. It is corruption. It is people losing their homes because someone with a clipboard decided to lie, and when the lies are documented, the consequences are real. Laura learned that the hard way. The board learned it too. And I learned that fighting back, even when you are tired and broke and ready to give up, can work. Not every time, but sometimes. And sometimes is enough. The Utah HOA Ombudsman case stayed open for another 6 months. Investigator Davis told me the state used my documentation as a model for other complaints. They changed the enforcement guidelines to require written notice, published policies, and a clear appeals process before any fine can be assessed. It is not a perfect system, but it is better than what Laura was running. The state also added a whistleblower protection clause. If a homeowner reports fraud and faces retaliation, the HOA can be fined and the board members held personally liable. That was a big deal. It meant people like me could push back without losing everything. I wish that protection had been in place when I started, but I am glad it is there now. Derek told me that the new management company fired the contractor who had issued the fake damage assessment for my snow pile. Turns out he was Laura's brother-in-law. He had been billing the HOA for services he never performed and splitting the money with Laura. The forensic accountant found invoices for plowing, salting, and sidewalk repair that never happened. The total was another $18,000. The contractor was added to the criminal investigation. I do not know if he was ever charged, but I know he lost the HOA contract and several others once word got out. Reputation matters in that business. He burned his. The house I sold closed without any issues after I left. The buyer was happy, the agent was relieved, and I was free. I drove past Timberline Estates once, about a year after I moved out. The entrance sign looked the same, the streets looked the same, but the vibe was different. I saw people outside, shoveling snow, talking to neighbors, not looking over their shoulders. Maybe that was my imagination. Maybe things had really changed. Either way, I did not stop. I kept driving. I had no reason to go back. That chapter was over. And I was okay with that. The only thing I kept from that whole mess was the reflective vest, the one I wore during the confrontation, the one that matched Laura's orange vest in the stupid symmetry of the moment. I do not wear it anymore, but I kept it in my closet as a reminder, not of the fight, of the win. Of the moment when I stood in my driveway with a folder full of facts and made a liar back down. That moment mattered. It still does. Because it taught me that the loudest voice is not always the right voice, and the person with the clipboard is not always the person with the truth. Sometimes you have to build the case yourself. Sometimes you have to be the one who does not blink. And sometimes, when you do, the HOA freezes enforcement pending a policy rewrite, and the whole corrupt system falls apart. I think about Laura sometimes, not with anger, with something closer to pity. She could have been good at that job. She could have helped people. But she chose control. She chose fear. She chose fraud. And in the end, she lost everything. Her position, her reputation, her freedom, all because she could not stop herself from taking one more dollar, issuing one more fake fine, telling one more lie. The greed was not even the worst part. The worst part was the cruelty, the way she smiled when she handed me that violation notice, the way she filmed me with that gimbal phone, convinced she was documenting my failure when she was really documenting her own. The way she said, "You signed the covenants, now you live the covenants," like it was a threat instead of a promise. She believed her own lies, and that made her dangerous. Until the facts caught up. The facts always catch up. That is the lesson. You can bluff, you can bully, you can fake authority and paperwork and vibes. But if someone is willing to document, to verify, to build the timeline, the truth comes out. And when it does, all the loud voices and reflective vests and gimbal phones in the world will not save you. Laura learned that. The board learned that. And I learned that standing your ground, even when it costs you time and money and sleep, is worth it. Because the alternative is letting people like Laura win. And I was not going to let that happen. Not to me, not to my neighbors, not to anyone. So I fought. And I won. And now, a year and a half later, I am sitting in a house with no HOA, no covenants, no compliance holes, and no one telling me how to shovel my driveway. And that feels like victory. I will see you in the next HOA story.